12 familiar foods are quietly losing space in Canadian supermarkets, and the number one item may already be sitting in your refrigerator. The worrying part is that many of these foods are not bad products. They are affordable, useful, nutritious, practical, or once helped families stretch a grocery budget through long winters and expensive weeks. But modern grocery chains do not always protect the items shoppers need most. They protect what sells faster, earns better margins, moves easily through distribution, and fits today's buying habits. So today, we will look at 12 foods slowly being pushed aside across Canada, from forgotten pantry staples to products being replaced by smaller, pricier versions, all the way to the most essential food on this list. And when we reach number one, you will see why something so ordinary, familiar, and trusted could be more vulnerable than people think. Let's start with number 12. 12. Frozen orange juice. Concentrate. If you grew up in Canada in the 1970s, 1980s, or 1990s, you may remember frozen orange juice concentrate sitting in the freezer, beside peas, ice cream, and the emergency loaf of bread. It was not glamorous. It was practical. A small can could be mixed with water and turned into several glasses of juice for breakfast, weekend brunch, or a house full of visiting grandchildren. For many families, especially during long winters when fresh fruit felt expensive, it was a simple way to keep orange juice available without filling the fridge with cartons. But today, frozen orange juice concentrate is losing its place in Canadian supermarkets. You may still find it at some stores, but the section is smaller, the brands are fewer, and it no longer feels like a basic freezer staple. The reason is not that the product suddenly stopped being useful. The reason is that shopping habits have changed. Canadian shoppers now have more beverage choices than previous generations did. Ready-to-drink orange juice, chilled fruit blends, smoothies, sparkling water, sports drinks, vitamin drinks, iced coffee, and protein beverages all compete for attention. Younger families often choose convenience over mixing a can at home. Many older shoppers still understand the value, but supermarkets follow sales speed, not nostalgia. Freezer space is expensive. Every product sitting there has to justify electricity, storage, restocking, and space. A slow-moving can of concentrate has to compete against frozen meals, desserts, fruit, vegetables, and higher-margin products that turn over faster. In chains like Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, No Frills, Food Basics, Walmart Canada, and Costco, the question is brutally simple. Does this item earn its space every week? The sad part is that frozen orange juice concentrate still makes sense. It takes up very little room, stores well, costs less per serving than many bottled juices, and lets a household make only what it needs. That matters in Canada, where grocery bills keep forcing families to think harder about waste, storage, and value. But retail does not always reward the most practical item. It rewards what people reach for now. And when shoppers forget a product for long enough, stores begin forgetting it too. Frozen orange juice concentrate is not disappearing because it failed. It is fading because the freezer aisle has changed around it. And the next food faces another quiet problem. It has not vanished, but stores increasingly treat it like a seasonal visitor. 11. Canned pumpkin. 1 cup of pure canned pumpkin can carry more vitamin A than many people expect. Yet in Canada, it is still treated like a baking season item instead of a year-round pantry food. That is the strange part. A can that can add fiber, color, thickness, and nutrients to ordinary meals often gets noticed only when Thanksgiving pies, fall baking, and holiday displays take over the aisles. In Canada, that seasonal window comes earlier. Thanksgiving arrives in October, and by September, canned pumpkin may suddenly appear in larger stacks at Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, No Frills, Food Basics, Walmart Canada, or smaller local grocers. For a few weeks, it feels easy to find. Then, the weather turns colder. The displays change, baking shelves get rearranged, and the same can become harder to spot by January or February. The reason is not a mystery. Canned pumpkin sells strongly during a short fall season, then slows down for much of the year. Grocery chains do not treat shelf space like a memory box. They treat it like expensive real estate. If a product does not sell steadily, that space can be handed to cake mixes, sauces, canned tomatoes, private label items, or faster-moving comfort foods. The unfortunate part is that canned pumpkin is far more useful than pie filling. Pure pumpkin can be stirred into oatmeal on a cold morning, blended into soup, added to pasta sauce, mixed into muffins, used in stews, or folded into bread batter. It makes meals thicker without needing cream, adds natural sweetness without turning everything into dessert, and helps stretch food when grocery bills feel heavier than they used to. For older Canadian shoppers, that matters. Many grew up wasting less, cooking more at home, and using simple pantry items to make meals last. Canned pumpkin fits that mindset perfectly. It is shelf-stable, compact, and useful during long winters when fresh produce may be expensive or uneven in quality. But useful does not always mean protected. A product can be nutritious, affordable, and practical, yet still lose space if people only buy it once a year. That is how canned pumpkin fades. Not through a big announcement, but through fewer facings, fewer brands, and shorter seasonal availability. The next time you see it outside fall, pay attention. It may be there now, but not always when you actually need it. That quiet shift is what makes this item worth watching. 10. Canned mackerel. Look closely at the canned fish section in a Canadian supermarket. Many shoppers still make the same quick decision. They reach for tuna, maybe canned salmon, and move on. In only a few seconds, another useful product can be pushed further into the background. Canned mackerel. In Canada, this story has to be understood differently. Mackerel is not completely strange to many shoppers. Coastal communities, immigrant households, and older buyers who grew up with practical pantry foods often know its value. But in big grocery chains, knowing a product exists is not enough. It still has to sell quickly, fit modern meal habits, and compete for a very small patch of shelf space. Tuna wins because it is easy. It goes into sandwiches, salads, casseroles, crackers, and lunchboxes without much explanation. Canned salmon has its own strong place too, especially with shoppers who remember salmon patties, sandwiches, and simple winter meals. Mackerel sits in a harder position. It is nutritious, rich in protein, and full of healthy fats. But its flavor is stronger, its uses feel less obvious, and many people hesitate before putting it in the cart. That hesitation matters. Grocery shelves are not organized by nutrition alone. They are organized by turnover. If mackerel sells slowly at Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, No Frills, Food Basics, or Walmart Canada, it may lose facings, flavors, and brands. Then fewer people notice it. When fewer people notice it, sales fall again. That is how a useful food gets trapped in a disappearance loop. The sad part is that mackerel can be one of the smartest pantry proteins. It works with hot rice, toast, potatoes, noodles, salads, or simple vegetables. A little lemon, pepper, mustard, or vinegar can balance the stronger taste. For older shoppers watching grocery costs, it offers protein and omega-3s without needing cooking, refrigeration, or a large grocery bill. But modern retail does not wait for people to rediscover forgotten foods during a busy shopping trip. It rewards what shoppers buy repeatedly, especially products with steady demand and clear meal memories across ordinary households. So canned mackerel is not fading because it lacks value. It is fading because it has not become an automatic choice for enough households. And every time someone reaches for the same familiar can, without looking beside it, one of the better low-effort proteins on the shelf moves a little closer to being overlooked completely. 9. Evaporated milk. Here is a question many Canadian shoppers rarely ask while standing in the dairy aisle. If the power went out for 3 days, what kind of milk in your home would still be usable? Fresh milk, whether it comes in cartons, jugs, or the familiar 4-liter bagged milk packs in parts of Canada, depends on refrigeration. Once the fridge warms up, its value drops quickly. But sitting quietly on a shelf is an older product built for moments when life does not run smoothly. Evaporated milk. For many younger shoppers, evaporated milk feels dated. But for older Canadians, it may still bring back memories of baking, cream soups, coffee, mashed potatoes, sauces, custards, and pantry meals during snowstorms or tight budget weeks. Its strength is not trendiness. Its strength is durability. An unopened can sit in the cupboard for a long time without electricity, without freezer space, and without demanding attention every few days. That matters in Canada. Winter storms, rural distance, high grocery costs, and long drives to the nearest store can make shelf-stable foods more than convenient. They become backup options. Evaporated milk can be diluted for cooking, poured directly into recipes, or used when fresh milk is gone and shopping has to wait. But modern grocery shelves are changing. Milk today is no longer only a cooking ingredient. It is also a lifestyle product. Oat milk, almond milk, lactose-free milk, protein drinks, flavored dairy beverages, and refrigerated specialty products all fight for space. They look newer, come in more varieties, and often carry higher prices. Evaporated milk, by comparison, is quiet, plain, and easy to overlook. That is the danger. A product can be useful for decades and still lose visibility when it does not create excitement. At Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, No Frills, Food Basics, or Walmart Canada, shelf space goes to products that move quickly and earn their place. Evaporated milk is not disappearing because it stopped working. It is fading because the market prefers novelty, convenience, and higher margin choices over old-fashioned reliability. And sometimes, reliability is exactly what households need most when plans fall apart. 8. Sardines in olive oil. Some foods do not fade because they are useless. They fade because shoppers stop giving them enough attention. Sardines in olive oil are a clear example. In Canada, this is not an unknown food. Many older shoppers, coastal families, and immigrant households know exactly what a small can of sardines can do. It can become lunch with toast, a quick meal with rice, or a protein-rich backup when the fridge is nearly empty. The problem is not value. The problem is visibility. A can of sardines can offer complete protein, omega-3 fats, vitamin D, and calcium from the soft edible bones. For people watching grocery costs, that is a serious amount of nutrition in a small package. But nutrition does not protect a product if shoppers walk past it without thinking. Tuna is easier. Canned salmon has a stronger place in Canadian memory. Sardines sit in between. Familiar to some, ignored by others. That middle position makes them vulnerable. If sardines sell slowly at Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, No Frills, Food Basics, Walmart Canada, or smaller local stores, the section can shrink. Fewer brands appear. Olive oil-packed versions become harder to find. Cheaper cans in soybean oil, water, or tomato sauce may replace the higher quality options. The shelf still looks full, but the best choices quietly disappear. Imports add another layer of pressure. Many olive oil-packed sardines come from places with long seafood canning traditions, such as Portugal, Spain, Morocco, or other coastal regions. When shipping costs rise, olive oil prices move, metal cans become more expensive, or importers simplify their product lines. Slower moving varieties are easy to cut first. That matters when every grocery trip already feels heavier. That is the quiet danger. No store announces that sardines are disappearing. You simply notice fewer choices, fewer flavors, fewer premium cans, and less shelf space than before. Sardines are not losing because they lack nutrition. They are losing because modern retail has little patience for products that require shoppers to remember their value. And once people stop reaching for them, even a practical, affordable pantry food can slowly slip out of view. 7. Canned coconut cream. Imagine a winter dinner in Canada when the refrigerator is almost empty. There is a little rice, a few spices, some frozen vegetables, and that familiar feeling that the meal will fill the plate, but not the body. Then you open the pantry and see a can of coconut cream. One small can can change everything. It makes curry thicker, soup richer, oatmeal heavier, and desserts feel fully complete. This is not a luxury item. It is quiet energy in a can. One can of coconut cream can carry hundreds of calories, mostly from fat. On an ordinary week, that may not sound impressive. But when grocery prices rise, meat feels expensive, and families try to stretch meals across several days, calories become practical. Protein matters, fiber matters, vitamins matter. But a meal also needs enough energy to keep someone warm, steady, and satisfied, especially during long, cold months. In Canada, coconut cream is not only a niche product. Many Asian, Caribbean, and multicultural households use it often, and larger cities may still have decent turnover. But that does not mean every version is safe. The real risk is quality and choice. Full-fat cans can be replaced by lighter, thinner versions. Smaller brands can disappear. Premium imported options can shrink, while cheaper private label cans take their place. The pressure comes from distance and cost. Coconut cream depends on coconut growing regions, then moves through factories, metal cans, containers, ports, warehouses, trucks, and finally, Canadian shelves. When shipping fees, fuel, exchange rates, canning costs, or supplier contracts rise, slower moving premium items get reviewed first. Stores may keep coconut milk because more shoppers recognize it, while coconut cream gets fewer facings. That is how it fades. Not with an empty shelf, but with fewer brands, thinner texture, smaller selection, and cans that no longer cook the way older shoppers remember. Coconut cream is valuable because it turns simple ingredients into a meal that feels complete. But in modern grocery retail, usefulness alone does not protect a product. If shoppers do not know what it does, the shelf slowly teaches them to forget it. 6. Full-fat coconut milk. Some products disappear by leaving the shelf. Full-fat coconut milk is more slippery than that. It can disappear while the can is still sitting in front of you. The label still says coconut milk. The picture still shows a coconut. The size still looks familiar. But the richest part inside may have been quietly reduced. That is the version Canadian shoppers need to watch. Real full-fat coconut milk should feel thick, creamy, and useful enough to carry a curry, soup, sauce, or dessert. Many full-fat cans often sit around 14 to 17 grams of fat per serving, depending on the brand. But when costs rise, some products become thinner. The can stays. The value changes. You may end up paying for more water, less cream, and a weaker ingredient without noticing until dinner tastes different. This is the quietest kind of shrinkflation. The package does not always get smaller. The product simply becomes less powerful. In Canada, coconut milk moves through a long chain before reaching Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, No Frills, Food Basics, Walmart Canada, Costco, or local grocers. Coconuts are grown far away, processed, canned, shipped, cleared, warehoused, and trucked across a large country. When fuel, shipping, exchange rates, metal cans, and supplier contracts become more expensive, manufacturers and retailers look for ways to protect price points when every dollar already matters at home. The danger is that shoppers notice too late. The curry is thinner. The soup lacks body. The dessert needs more cans. Full shelves can hide weaker products very well. So do not trust the front label alone. Turn the can around. Look at the fat content, ingredients, and serving size. The hardest thing to find may not be coconut milk itself. It may be real full-fat coconut milk that still cooks like it used to. 5. Canned chickpeas. Many people underestimate canned chickpeas with one narrow idea. Chickpeas are only for hummus. In Canada, that is a mistake. Chickpeas have a much broader place than that. especially in households influenced by South Asian, Middle Eastern, Mediterranean, and winter cooking traditions. They can go into soups, curries, salads, rice bowls, stews, roasted snacks, pasta, or simple pantry meals when fresh ingredients are running low. Their real strength is fullness. A small can gives fiber, plant-based protein, and slow-digesting carbohydrates that help a meal feel steadier and more satisfying. For shoppers over 50, that matters. Not every pantry food is cheap, ready to use, easy to store, and able to make a light meal feel complete without much cooking. But chickpeas still face pressure in Canadian supermarkets. The issue is not that people dislike them. The issue is that grocery chains are constantly simplifying shelves. At Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, No Frills, Food Basics, Walmart Canada, and smaller stores, shelf space often goes to products that sell fastest, carry strong private label programs, or fit weekly buying habits. If a store can sell more canned beans, lentils, sauces, or ready-made meals in the same space, slower varieties may lose facings. Chickpeas are especially vulnerable when costs rise. Canning, transportation, metal, labor, and distribution all affect the final shelf price. If a specific brand or size does not move quickly, retailers may keep only one basic version, cut premium options, or replace them with house brands. That is how a useful food becomes less visible. Not because chickpeas are weak, but because supermarkets reward speed, simplicity, and margin. And once shoppers stop seeing several choices, they may slowly stop treating chickpeas as a normal pantry staple at all. That quiet loss matters, because this small can still turns cheap ingredients into real meals. 4. Plant-based protein powder. There is a strange pressure building around plant-based protein powder in Canada. Some foods fade because shoppers stop buying them. This one faces a different problem. Demand has grown so quickly that the supply chain is starting to feel tight. Athletes, vegetarians, older adults trying to maintain muscle, people reducing red meat, and shoppers looking for easier breakfast protein are all reaching for similar ingredients, especially pea protein and rice protein. That sounds like good news, but fast growth creates stress. Peas and rice do not magically expand because more containers appear at Costco, Walmart Canada, Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, or health food stores. Farmers, processors, manufacturers, and testing labs all have to keep up. High-quality plant protein needs sourcing, processing, flavoring, packaging, and safety checks for allergens, purity, heavy metals, and traceability. Those standards help protect consumers, but they also raise costs. This is where smaller brands become vulnerable. Large companies can absorb higher ingredient prices, reformulate products, negotiate contracts, and keep popular tubs on the shelf. Smaller brands may not have that cushion. When costs rise, they may cut slow-selling flavors, reduce package sizes, raise prices, or disappear from certain stores altogether. For Canadian shoppers over 50, this matters because protein powder is no longer only a gym product. It is often used in smoothies, oatmeal, yogurt, or simple meals. When appetite is low or cooking feels tiring, a plain tub can help make breakfast more filling without much effort. So plant-based protein powder may not vanish completely. The risk is fewer choices, higher prices, weaker formulas, and shelves dominated by a few large brands. Sometimes a product does not disappear because people stopped wanting it. Sometimes it changes because too many people started wanting the same thing at once, before supply chains could comfortably catch up with demand. 3. Cheap, large bags of rice. There is an ironic truth in Canadian supermarkets. The item that helps shoppers save the most is not always the item retailers most want to protect. Large bags of rice are a perfect example. A 4-kilogram or 8-kilogram bag can provide many meals, last a long time when stored dry, and usually cost less per kilogram than smaller packages. For families watching grocery bills, that is simple math. But simple math is not always good retail math. Large rice bags are heavy, bulky, hard to display, and slower to move through smaller stores. They take up space that could be used for microwave rice, flavored rice cups, ready-to-heat pouches, or smaller premium packs that sell for much more per kilogram. Shoppers think they are buying convenience. Over time, they may be losing the cheapest option. This matters in Canada because many households already use rice as a quiet meal stretcher. It turns canned fish, chickpeas, frozen vegetables, leftover chicken, soup, or curry into something filling. For older shoppers on fixed incomes, that kind of pantry base can make a real difference. Yet in chains like Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, No Frills, Food Basics, Walmart Canada, and smaller local stores, shelf space follows turnover and margin. Large rice bags may get fewer brands, lower placement, or disappear first from compact stores. They are not vulnerable because they lack value. They are vulnerable because they offer too much value too cheaply. Once that option shrinks, shoppers lose one of the simplest ways to turn today's money into tomorrow's meals. 2. Family size Greek yogurt. Family size Greek yogurt is not disappearing in Canada the same way other foods disappear. It is not vanishing overnight. It is being crowded by smaller, flashier formats. Large tubs still matter, especially because Canadian shoppers often buy 650-gram or 750-gram containers from brands like Astro, Liberté, Olympic, or store labels. For many households, one tub can handle breakfast, smoothies, fruit bowls, sauces, baking, or a quick protein boost. But the yogurt aisle is changing. More space is going to single cups, multi-packs, dessert-style flavors, added toppings, and products designed to feel convenient. Those smaller formats create more packaging, more flavor choices, more marketing, and usually a higher price per serving. A large tub may be better value, but it is less exciting to display. For shoppers over 50, this matters. Greek yogurt can be one of the easiest ways to add protein without cooking. It also helps stretch meals when mixed with oats, fruit, or simple sauces. Yet in Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, No Frills, Food Basics, or Walmart Canada, shelf space follows sales and margin. The large tub may not disappear, but the cheaper, flexible option can slowly lose ground. 1. Whole milk. Every food on this list gives Canadian shoppers one valuable thing: time. Rice can sit in the pantry. Canned beans, canned fish, pumpkin, and chickpeas can wait until needed. Whole milk is different. It forces the household to race the clock. That is why it belongs at number 1. In Canada, this does not mean a gallon jug. For many families, especially in Ontario, Quebec, and the Maritimes, fresh milk often means cartons or the familiar 4-liter bagged milk pack. Once opened, it depends completely on refrigeration, careful handling, and steady use. Farms must produce on schedule. Processors must package on schedule. Refrigerated trucks, warehouses, and stores must keep it cold. Then, families must finish it before it spoils. That short life makes milk vulnerable to electricity costs, transport costs, labor pressure, and supply disruptions. Canada's dairy system is more protected than many markets, but protection does not remove pressure from the cold chain. Meanwhile, shelf-stable and plant-based alternatives keep improving. They travel easier, store longer before opening, and give retailers more flexibility. Whole milk will not disappear overnight, but because it touches breakfast, cooking, children, and older adults, any pressure on it is felt quickly across Canadian households every day. The most important question is not whether these foods are disappearing, it is why. Many are still useful, affordable, nutritious, and practical for Canadian households trying to stretch grocery budgets. But modern supermarkets do not always protect what helps shoppers most. They protect what sells faster, earns better margins, fits limited shelf space, and follows current habits. First, there are fewer brands, then fewer sizes, then a familiar product becomes seasonal, thinner, or harder to find. That is how quiet disappearance works. If you have noticed a food fading from stores near you, share it below.